go. Sweat Equity Podcast, the number one comedy business podcast in the world.
I want money.
I want money. Pragmatic entrepreneurial advice with real raw dog talk.
You had to pump the brakes on this one, actually. You stopped yourself from saying
I
it.
did.
noticed.
I heard you laugh with our guest,
He's snickering.
Mary Ann Pruitt. You can, if that's a little Easter egg, if you make it all the way to the end of the episode. What's the award we just won? We just won another award, right?
Oh, yeah, I
We're the
forgot.
best small business advice podcast in the goddamn universe.
Yeah, that's it.
Something
like that.
It's something like that. It's definitely a scam award, but we're taking it. Listen to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, OnlyFans, Substack, YouTube, Google Play, the Amazon Podcasts, iHeartRadio.
Yeah.
We're on all those things, and if we're not on something we need to get on, let us know. This episode brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one drag and drop, no coding necessary website developer and designer. Make a website on your own. You don't need code. You don't need a lot of nerds that are going to rip you off.
You don't even need one nerd.
The support on Squarespace, if you need to know something, is actually helpful.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not like just some chatbot talking to you, like Verizon or your cable company. Squarespace, get a little hookup. Holler if you hear me. Hit the link in our episode description if you want a little discount. It hooks the show up. We like that, right?
Yeah, we do. We do.
I want money.
Then we can have our Schmitz Gay pool party once we get enough of that ad money coming in.
Yeah.
Let's get it started with Mary Ann Pruitt in Alaska. Hotty toddy!
What about my sweat equity? Sweat equity. Sweat equity. My sweat equity. My sweat equity. Sweat equity. What about my sweat equity?
Of Alaska?
I'm in Anchorage.
Okay.
Okay.
How many, what's
We're good.
what's population size of Anchorage?
Anchorage is about almost 400,000. We're the majority of the state.
And that's the biggest city, right?
It is, yeah.
I had a
Population statewide is a little over 700,000.
I had a college roommate from Juneau,
Okay.
which is odd because I went to Auburn. So he made it to Middle East Alabama. We're the Harvard of Middle East Alabama.
Well, at least you're somewhere up there in Middle East Alabama. It works. But yeah, Southeast Juneau. Juneau is the only capital in the United States that you have to fly to or take a boat to. You can't drive.
Huh.
Oh, you can't?
Little known fact.
It's
You
an
cannot
island?
drive-
If I was trying to go,
Not an island. It is not an island, but you have to take a boat. There is no road to Juneau.
oh, really? I didn't know that. He never mentioned that, my old roommate.
See? You have to fly or take a boat. It's the only way to get there.
Tal Blair, my old roommate, didn't tell me a whole lot about Alaska.
He probably told you all
You're
about
going to
it. You
learn
weren't
more
paying
today
attention.
about Alaska than you did then.
Well,
So, yeah.
when we were roommates, we did have one of those big peace pipe, communal pipes that you can smoke tobacco out of.
So, tobacco.
Yeah. So,
Or weed.
6 packs of soda. in
right.
there.
The Tommy boy.
Yeah.
We're rolling, and we're keeping that all in, all of that stuff.
Go for it. Go for it.
Mary Ann Pruitt, why don't you give everybody your plugs, where to find you, if you're promoting anything in particular, so we don't mess it up.
Yeah, Mary Ann Pruitt. I'm with Mosaic Media. We are a collaboration of media's finest when it comes to negotiating and putting together your paid media plans. If it falls under that umbrella, that is us. You can find me on Twitter at Media Maps. And you can also, if any point anybody just wants us to talk about media or has questions after we go through this interview, they can always reach out to me at mosaic.agency/contact, and it comes straight to me. I'm always about having a conversation and helping people with their media plans, and even auditing and looking at what you currently have.
Yeah, we, Eric and I are kind of cut from the same cloth. I feel like we'll kind of try to help anybody because there's so much. I'll classify it under digital, but there's so much just snake oil.
Hearsay.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
you're out of Alaska doing all this work.
Yeah, so I live in Alaska. We have teams and offices in the Pacific Northwest, in the South, so and Midwest, as well as East Coast. So we cover all 50 states. I just happen to have founded and live in Alaska. So founded the company in Alaska and live in Alaska, but now less than 5% of our work is in Alaska. It just happens to be my home.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the remote workforce kind of foundation you set up. But first, I want to ask our question we ask every guest the first time they come on. What advice would you give your 13-year-old self?
13-year-old self is don't hesitate and go for the things that you want to go for. I think, and I maybe this is for me, coming from a young entrepreneur and a female young entrepreneur, is don't second guess yourself, know your gut. And I think that's every entrepreneur. We all have to look at it as your gut will tell you a story and follow that, and listen to that gut. And it's okay to check that every once in a while.
Props on the quickness for don't hesitate. You really lived it out.
Well,
Bam!
I can tell she's good at what she does because a lot of your work is planning. And
that's true.
It seems like you prepared for this interview.
What?
By listening
Not
to
as much as you would think.
But-
I like
too.
little impromptu. I love impromptu. I do have a little background knowledge of me. There's a little theater that I had in the background, so I think a little impromptu is always good.
Yeah, I can tell you're very present, but also before the mics heated up, you said you listened to a couple episodes, which is unusual for most of our
Still
guests.
on the show.
Okay.
So
Well, I think
maybe
it's always
you heard
important
that
to-
question ahead of time, but that's fine.
No, actually, I mean, I heard it, but that doesn't mean I was even thinking it through. So there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well played. Very politician answer.
I'm just that good.
That's how you get to be one of the top women in media with the
true.
2020 award that you failed to humble brag at the top. So you started. So I want to ask you about. Was there a time growing up where you didn't have the intuition, where you talked yourself out of things?
I think human nature is to talk ourselves out of things and not just have that faith that, we can do this and take that leap. I look through, it's funny, when I got into advertising and actually eventually, I had a career in media before I founded this firm and went through that process and, worked at some of the largest firms in the nation on the media front. But what's interesting is when I founded this firm, my mom sent me a snapshot. I have to find it somewhere, but she sent me a picture of a letter that I wrote to myself in 4th grade saying, I want to work in advertising. And this is why I want to work in advertising.
Really?
Which, how creepy is that? That's kind of creepy, right? That 4th grade Mary Ann was, I want to work in advertising. And I completely forgot about it. So that intuition and that instinct is in us if we just channel it. But as children, we're less afraid to say no. We're just this is who I am. It's okay. I think children don't have that fear filter yet. We haven't been taught completely that you got to keep things at arm's length or push back or, test everything out and be safe all the time. It's our job to test things when we're kids. And, fast forward, now it's okay, I took that leap, but could I have taken it earlier? Are there other things that, you go through it? You learn something every year in life, no matter how old you get. But that instinct and that intuition of young, listen to that earlier. And that's in you, and that's in all of us. But it's human nature to want to push back.
Yeah, I tell my kids all the time, if you run into an adult who says they know everything, they're lying to your face.
100%.
I tell them, I'm I don't know. I say it all the time to my kids. I don't know. Why would I know that?
Yeah, I tell my kids I don't know.
Look it up.
I don't know a lot of things. Let's look it up. Let's see if we can figure it out.
Yeah.
But also, I'll make mistakes a lot of the time, and even to what you're saying, the kind of the self-talk aspect of being an adult and being an entrepreneur. We talk a lot. A theme on this show is entrepreneurship is isolating. It's very lonely.
So is.
Especially in Alaska, when most of your workforce is outside of the area.
Well, I am on an airplane for probably half of the year, not here because of clients not being in Alaska. But at the same time, just entrepreneurship as a whole is so lonely at times because you know everything and then you know your fears on top of that, right? And that's just being honest as an entrepreneur. You know all the behind the scenes, you know everything that's going on in your company, and you have to be honest with yourself of everything that's going on. Otherwise, if you're pulling the wool over your eyes, then you're not doing your best due diligence in your company and as an entrepreneur. But then we add fear to that, and that self-talk, like you just said, is so important. Of okay, what are the next things that I can do? I've overcome this before, or I've done this before, or you go back and look through the things that you have survived. And none of us know everything. Reach out to people. It's okay. I think right now in entrepreneurship, we are at this peak, amazing time of collaboration. Work with people. We have so many experts, and now we have so many ways to connect where we haven't had that in the past. And COVID changed that. COVID made it where it's way more acceptable for us to all reach out to each other and brainstorm and think things through and collaborate and partner together more. Finding good partners and finding good people to work with where your expertise may not be is exactly how entrepreneurs should be moving forward in today's world.
Yeah. Know what you don't know is a big thing. That's an ego death mushroom trip you got to figure out. The other thing I want to touch on, we have all these methods of communication, yet I think we're atrophying. I think we're not. We have more ways and more access to communicate and get information, but I think we all suck at it as a whole.
Yeah, just emoji everything.
Well,
you don't get it.
I've been trying to write a bit about what if you used emojis in real life? How creepy would that be?
Hieroglyphics.
I'll come over for that booty call. Wink, gun.
Right.
Wait, and we're also like going totally back in history. Like you just said, hieroglyphics. Like, are we going back to cave writings? Is that what we're going back to?
Well,
I mean, that's how we're communicating.
Emojis are the universal language.
It's the one that more people on Earth understand because it's just hieroglyphic. It's like the tablet's the oldest and newest thing at the same time.
Exactly. That's exactly.
But I think we're worse at, and this is someone who can't read out loud, reading comprehension, like reading or writing a text with, there's no nuance in it. I'm going backwards, and I find myself calling more people now.
Yeah, there's no nuance in a text.
Or what's the worst is like trying to text someone or email someone that it takes so much longer just to do it than if you just called them up.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you get that mode because we hide behind keyboards with a lot of our work, right?
I've actually said this often.
Thing.
I feel like it's a control thing, and we're raising a completely passive-aggressive generation. That they can't have a conversation.
Yeah.
And if you look at a lot of things that I teach on also is the generational habits that we're seeing, because the first time in American history, we have 5 working generations. We've never had that before. And if you think about that and all the spending power and the media consumption and all the data that goes into that, but part of it is these habits that are very passive aggressive. We have taught kids and generations to not communicate and how to not communicate. They think it's okay, just send a text for whatever. We've heard horror stories and actually we had this where an employee's parent called in sick for them. They had a cold. It wasn't like they were in the hospital. It wasn't anything, but their parent called in sick for them as if they were going to school. Like things like that.
I hate the term adulting, by the way.
Cringeworthy moment, right?
I hate when people brag about adulting.
Oh, God.
And you're like, no, just fucking be an adult. You're like, get your shit.
Adulting. What are you doing? What are you doing in your other time?
Look, I get what it is, though.
Pooping your pants? What are you doing the other times?
But I get what it is. Because I'll do the same in a different way. You want a gold star. You want a little recognition. You want the
little scratch on the head. Yeah.
The bottom parts of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I don't think a lot of people are getting those because attention spans are fragmented. Partly because we're bad at communicating.
Yeah.
And
the likes
part of that is and going into COVID, we were already bad at communicating. But then what COVID actually did was take the human interaction portion out of it. And it forced us even more to be in that text mode or overconsumption of media as a whole. So overconsumption of communication, overconsumption of information. And if you look at media habits and what people, where we shifted and where we went to, like in a 2-week period, we saw an evolution that should have taken 10 to 20 years happen in a 2-week period. Like that's significant, where we had older generations that were not using social media, that overnight they're going to be on social media. And think of that side of it. We went to this overconsumption. We see this in American history, and anytime there's anything catastrophic that takes place, people want to overconsume information.
Overcorrect, right? Like it's a lot of overcorrection, it seems like these days.
Exactly. The difference with COVID, we never came back down. Other catastrophic events, we came back down because the event takes place. Then we come back down. Okay, I don't need to consume as much. I consume a few things. It changes some habits. COVID, I need to overconsume, and we've continued to overconsume.
Got more shows to watch.
Yes.
Gotta
Well, there's
finish
more shows to watch. We're trying to escape more than we ever have before because of the tension and because it's been so long and there's so many things going on. But then we're also trying to feed ourselves with enough information to make sure that everything's safe. We created habits because it took so long. We actually created substantiated habits that took place, and those haven't changed. So we have a 2 to 3 year really experiment of what took place with the human brain, of what we're consuming and how we're consuming it.
First thing, like my favorite part about COVID and kind of the white collar workspace was that they're like, oh, Zoom. We can work remotely, and it's like, bitch, this has been around for 10 years. Like, what? This isn't new.
This came out at the same time as COVID? What are the odds?
Right.
Holy cow.
It's so true. Everybody thought it was new technology, and it's like, we've been doing this for years. But it allowed entrepreneurs. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. Like, I'll tell you, our sales have gone through the roof since COVID, and even before COVID, we were already in a growth mode. But once COVID hit, nobody cares where you are. They don't even ask.
It did help normalize it. People who normally wouldn't be willing to jump on a Zoom call, they're kind of forced to. That was a huge portion of it, I think, is people were just
absolutely.
I prefer to email.
Very salty hair executives were like, Zoom, this thing's amazing. It's like, we've had video chat for maybe 20 years. I don't know. But like, this is how we should have been doing a lot of things anyway. And again, back to the kind of the communication aspect of it, a lot of people are trying to do these hybrid workforces coming back into offices a little bit. And or even if they just go fully remote, I don't think anybody's I think on a whole, a lot of people aren't very good at managing that remote workforce. How do you handle that?
Yeah, so we make sure to have interaction with each other on a regular basis. So management will come together, and we're spread all out, but we will come together once a month. And then we typically we make sure we have at least we make sure that we have an in-person meeting management-wise once a quarter at minimum. Typically, we actually try to do a little bit more than that, but that's at minimum. And then we come together in a setting of that once a month for sure, of making sure that we are communicating regularly. And then we have little meetings here or there if we're working on big projects, making sure. So that's on the management level. But then what's important is a lot of people, they started to lose culture of the company when they went remote or when they went to completely video. That became early on when we saw, okay, this isn't really going to slow down. This isn't a 2-week experiment. Then we all come back into the office. And frankly, it opened up a lot more opportunities of workforce and where we were able to go and being able to think, okay, we don't all have to be in the same building, but you have to be intentional. That's probably the key thing, is being intentional on culture, but then intentional on work product. What does this look like? How do we collaborate together intentionally via Zoom, via Teams, via whatever product you're using on it, but making sure that you're intentional in that. Here's the one thing that I see more and more with brands and with agencies and with everybody across the whole, and marketers and entrepreneurs, is death by meeting. We all of a sudden thought that we needed to have more meetings because, we're all working remotely. Let's have 5 meetings a day to check in. We're going to do a morning check-in, a noon check-in, and an evening check-in. We didn't do that in the office. Why do we need to do that? We don't need to do that.
And then you do working meetings.
Let's do stuff that we could have done alone on our own time. And
Or
instead we'll include all these people into our suffering. and make them go through it with us. And I'm
or you have so much
able
work.
to do it.
You have to work during the meeting, which defeats the purpose of being in the meeting most of the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll listen like a podcast, I guess, while I'm trying to do some of this things that are kind of brain dead. But I read a thing from like a VC firm, and I wanted to make a table like that for us. It looks like a guitar pick, because they said any meeting that has more than 7 people is worthless. And I totally agree with that. And 7 people is a lot.
And it's like a show.
And then, I feel like it sounds like you're intentional and thoughtful proactively. And I think you might have been dancing around being proactive in your work than letting it just come to you and going, oh shit, I got to get this done.
Yeah, and you have to be, right? You have to show that proactive. And as leaders and entrepreneurs, it doesn't matter if it's just you or if you have 40, 50, 100 employees. It doesn't matter on that front. You have to be intentional and you have to be proactive. You have to have that self-discipline. And I think entrepreneurs as a whole, we're driven people. We are people that naturally have this instinct to be driven. We have a tendency to be, a lot of us are accidental entrepreneurs, but we have that spirit within us, right? And we land into it. Me, I don't think I was an accidental entrepreneur. I kind of landed it, but not really. It was like, okay, no, I'm going to take this faith and do it.
You knew at 10, but you didn't know it until later.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got some vim and vigor in you.
It's pretty crazy.
You've got some. Yeah, we can tell you.
What 10-year-old wants to be in advertising?
I know. What ads were you seeing that you're like, hell yeah?
Yeah.
Barbizon?
I really want to know. Like, my mom said that I used to rewrite jingles all the time. Like, I would watch TV. I don't remember doing this, but I would rewrite. And
Mom, I can figure out the Bagel Bites theme. Sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I jingle.
What do you got? You have anything off the top of your head?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I knew you were going to call me out on that. I'm trying to think of anything I would do. Like, I remember.
By Menon?
I'm trying to remember which jingle.
No,
yes, it was.
No, you didn't.
Why would I say that?
We are a heterosexual gay couple.
Yeah, we are. I got the willies.
By Menon, because it's the shortest one you can't really do anything with.
Yeah.
But that's like an audio logo. That's not really a jingle.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, I remember trying to reword them so that they would actually be funny as opposed to just whatever it was. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I remember one with my Lanta, but I don't remember which jingle I did something with. I don't remember. Anyway.
Oh, that's going to bother me now.
I don't know why my Lanta comes to.
You're gonna
Lanta. Is that it?
No. Ricola. That's the other one that was in my head.
Lanta. That's it.
You're going to love the Weird Al movie on Roku, by the way, if you're writing jingles, parody jingles.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's best movie of 2022. I'm saying.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What?
Yeah. Suck on that, Top Gun.
2.
Yeah, and Elvis in Fruity Elvis movie that I can't get into every time I put it on.
I go to watch it and I can't finish it. Like, I go to watch it, and the first 5. I'm like,
my mom's like, you got to go see it in the theater. I'm like, it's not going to, unless I own a theater.
I'm going to go see Black Panther in the theater. You think I'm going to see that?
I do. Wakanda Forever. You know how I am.
Yeah.
So I want to get back to this generational marketing aspect. What do you use to kind of, for your research? Are you, I kind of start thinking lately, I've really thought about marketing and media buying is part of that process, on a strategic level as the scientific method, right?
Yeah.
We think, or the client thinks they know who their audience is, right? So I like to ask up front in the discovery kind of call or, intro meeting and go, who's your target audiences? And then they tell me, and I go, now, how do you know that? And they just go, I know, right? And it's like, did you just know? Or are you going off of like data that you read from your CRM or something? And they're like, nah. And I go, okay, I'm going to challenge that. That's the hypothesis. Scientific method, let's see if we can break it, right? So let's see if we can break that idea. And not to be a contrarian, but just to go, but part of it's kind of a hypocrite because I'm using my intuition to go, I don't think that's right. I don't think you know.
My bullshit is better than your bullshit.
Brand, majority of brands are just guessing. They don't necessarily know. And what is the substantiated data that's backing that up? You don't know. And they're guessing. And they're thinking, oh, this is what I think. And I think the older the brand, the harder it is for them to really figure that out and really dig into it deeper. But in today's world, and you guys know this.
I was going to say, I don't know. I mean, the further it gets along, the more data they get from you, you know,
they should. But that data tells a story, right?
Right.
And if not using that story and using that information to really dig in, you have to to know your audience far further than you ever have before. It's no longer a demo that we're targeting. Like when I started in media, it was, what's your target demographic?
Right.
Okay. We're talking adults 25 to 54. Okay. Like that's what we did.
Why was advertising on TV always like, I get the legacy brands like Pepsi.
So get me started on TV advertising.
They want to get you 13 to 24 and you're like, they got no money. I want to work with clients and businesses that are targeting old people because the one predictor of wealth is age. I mean, I get it if you're Mountain Dew.
Yeah, but you're dismissing baby boomers who still have the most money, expendable cash. They have $70 trillion as a generation. Like, why have we moved on from them? Mm-hmm. They still have the most. So we shouldn't, right? They still have the most.
Yeah.
Right? Gen Xers and millennials, like, think of this statistic. Gen Xers have 2.4 trillion and millennials have 2.5 trillion. Okay.
Our friend of
suck it, Gen X.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like Gen Xers are right there in that middle. I always say they're the forgotten generation because they have to fight for every scrap.
Except they tell everybody that they're the forgotten generation, so they're not.
We didn't forget.
Yeah. And
we remembered you saying that yesterday.
Our friend of the program, Dean Akers, likes to tell us Gen X is the worst generation because they don't have kids. They're not as entrepreneurial. Have you heard him talk about that?
Did you say based on what, Dean?
Oh no, he'll pull census data. He'll pull like macro.
Were you
data.
like, okay, fine?
No, again, one of those things where self-talk. I would be like, he's not fucking right, and then everything I challenge him on.
I assume everything Dean says is right. I don't.
Well, now I do because he's been right about so many things that I'm like, I don't know about that.
No.
And what's it called? He's our former boss.
Okay.
I consider him a mentor. Nowadays, and everything he's telling us, he's 7 years old, trying to impart his wisdom on us.
He has wisdom to listen to. Yeah, absolutely.
But
the thing that's
I got to give her a knee-jerk reaction of going, nah.
Yeah. Well, and what's fascinating is those that are in their 70s and even in the high end of their 70s are still working or mentoring or helping. Like that's different than past generations where they don't. My father, who's 70, he just turned 78. He retired 2 years ago. And then the next week he tells me, I took on a retirement project. It's the same type of job that he had for 55 years. But now, I took on a retirement project.
I've been trying to.
It's not a retirement project. That's a job.
I've been trying to get my dad to do some. He was an attorney, commercial real estate attorney for like 30
you should get arrested.
Years. Well, he doesn't do that. Otherwise, it'd be awesome. I'd just be dealing drugs. But I'm like, I keep going to my mom. I'm like, can we find him to like volunteer somewhere to help out with something? And she's like, she had to like finally break it down. She's like, stop trying to pitch this because she's like, your generation is a lot different. He did the gold watch generation. You work at one place.
He's done.
As long
for the
as
rest
you can.
Of your life.
He had a secretary that did all that other stuff we have to do on our own as entrepreneurs in the beginning, where you have to do all this admin and clerical and figure it out and all that stuff. And he was
also went to law school and played in the NFL, so he gets a secretary.
Yeah, and I don't even know if he wants to do anything like that. I'm just like, to me, I feel like the guys that I just want them to selfishly live longer. I feel like the guys that are working or doing something like that, they're more fulfilled on a day-to-day basis. But I think they my parents like annoying each other all day. I think that's their new thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe that's their job.
Yeah.
That's their job.
They go watch my niece's volleyball
Your mom's
stuff.
like, well, then what'll I do then?
Yeah. She's got to drive him around like Uber now. It's fun.
See? That's a full-time
It is
job.
funny.
Okay.
Because she's like...
If you say so.
Well, he's like, yeah, come pick me up from the golf course. I'm 18 Heineken's in.
Oh, sweet.
Here's the thing, though, too. Like, they're still active. They're still doing things. Like, generationally, they're still doing things. things. Even if they retire, they're still doing things. And that's where people are living longer. We see this, like when it comes to your media planning and your marketing planning. I like how you said, as I look at marketing and media is part of that, my media planning is part of that, because marketing is this gigantic umbrella or bridge, right? And your media plan is a pillar of that bridge, holding that bridge up. And until you're figuring that out, as we're looking at media plans and how we're reaching that target demographic, persona, I like to say persona as opposed to demographic, because that's who we are. That's our customer. That's that individual. If they're on the golf course, if they have expendable cash, who are they? Where are they? What are they doing? We can target, this is a dream. If you would have told me 20 plus years ago when I started my career that I can target ads like this, it's incredible. And you just have to not be afraid to look at it that way. And brands really need to just embrace this, because the data is there more now and it tells us a story.
Yeah, and I thought you were going to say persona for those reasons, but also you can meet them at the point where they need the product or service, right?
100%. 100%.
You're trying to figure out behavioral trends in that kind of psychology. I'm getting a vibe. You're very much into psychology, very much analytical, which was something I wanted to touch on earlier, because I think we talk about entrepreneurs. They don't take the 10 minutes a day without the phone, because you get in this busy hustle culture bullshit, and you never really analyze what you're doing, on a daily basis or even a weekly basis. A lot of the time, you're just kind of constantly moving forward, you think, and it's really quicksand.
Hamster in a wheel.
Yeah.
Yep, you're a hamster in a wheel. What I find with myself is when I actually stop thinking anything future. Most entrepreneurs, we're visionaries. We are. We're not going to be the people that are the tactical, necessarily the doers. We can be, but we're visionary. And what I find is kind of a red flag for me is if I'm not thinking past a year, or I'm not thinking past a certain, I need to slow it down. I need to take my time and be intentional with that 10 minutes a day of focus of, okay, what is it that I'm looking at? I got to get my brain into that recoup. And actually, I think a lot of entrepreneurs fell into this with COVID, because things were just moving in a weird way and fast, that our brains never really got to recoup, and they never got to regenerate anything that were those entrepreneurial thoughts of what's next, because that's how we think. That's how entrepreneurs are wired. But you have to be intentional about it. Otherwise, you will become that hamster on the wheel of I'm just busy. Well, busy isn't necessarily productive.
Exactly. Yeah. I was going to say, you're not producing anything when you're planning in the future.
Yeah.
Start producing, write it down, put it,
Busy feels productive.
Right. Exactly. Look what I made.
And then
it's
you
not
get
a computer though.
And then you like to get a productivity boner out of telling people how much stuff you've done.
Right.
Well,
how many lines of code that was, bro?
Well, we
no
feel like it's those affirmations of adulting, right? Of I'm busy.
Oh, everybody's always busy.
The people who tell in general, the people who tell me that they're busy the most, or I know they're not. I know they're not.
I know. Ask them. Oh yeah. What are you busy with?
That's why they don't want to hang out.
Right.
Because I'm like,
our friend list is dwindling.
What's that schedule look like? I want to ask you actually. If we're anything on this show on the entrepreneurship side, we try to have some pragmatic advice, some real talk, and LinkedIn. The LinkedIn feed is nice at motivational things, but I don't think it really helps anybody. It's like chicks on Instagram posting quotes. Have you seen that in stories? Yeah.
Right.
Every chick, and you're like, oh man, just. Can we talk?
Do you need help? Said it that way.
But what is your routine? Eric and I are big.
What time are you waking up?
Yeah. What's your breakfast, lunch, dinner with work? Yeah. Give us the whole work-life balance.
And is it different in Alaska?
Well, so a lot of our clients are on the East Coast, so it is a little different. But when I am big on routine, and I am almost religious on routine.
That's good.
Okay, so I am very strict, this is going to happen. This is the way it is. So my day starts at 4 a.m. every day.
You and Eric, yeah. And Jocko Willnick.
That's the way it starts. I usually start with some reflection time. Usually the first 10 minutes of my day is some reflection. Get kind of what's going on in the day. Just look at things. The night before I go to bed, I always check my calendar. So I know what the day looks like ahead of time. But 4 a.m. start. I work out I usually do my walk, strength training. That's what I typically do. I get it out of the way. Then by 5:30, that's when I'm getting ready for bed.
Did you read Eric's feelings journal?
Did you read my book?
No. Oh, okay. See, I think the most disciplined people just get it done. Just like get your stuff done that you need to get done.
Yeah.
Well, Eric pitched it to me as no one takes your mornings away. And when you wake up that early, and it took me a while to actually try it out, and I got more stuff done. And yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It's amazing what you can get done between 4 to 8 a.m.
Yes.
And how
I'm usually
productive
spent.
you can.
8 a.m. rolls around, I'm done.
At 8 a.m.
Stuff.
Because you can be so productive in those 4 hours. I get my workout done. I start, and I probably around by the time I get ready like around 5:30 to if I need to be on Zoom or if I need to be on anything. And then from there, it is a very productive day. Like right now, our meeting started at 2:00 Alaska time. Usually my day's wrapped up by now because of the fact that I'm so productive in the morning. And by wrapped up, it means I can get whatever the other things that are going on in my life, personal, all the above. And it makes for that intentional time with my family. So I can make sure that I have that balance there. So by 7:00, I am ready to go. And everything is that's when my first meetings usually start. Sometimes my first meeting, I allow for a window. I'm big on blocking my calendar. So I allow for a window of 6 a.m. forward of meetings because that helps for East Coast, that helps West Coast. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're international. We can all have that done. And if there's any calls that have to happen that early in the morning, I'm already scheduled for a 4 a.m. start. So I'm usually having breakfast when everybody, I'm having lunch when everybody else is having breakfast. It's usually, that's not an uncommon thing. And I'm usually in bed every night by 8:30.
Yep.
So
I know that game.
Hanging out with you. If it hits 9,
I stay up a little later than that.
Like 10, but if once it's like Cinderella.
I turn into a pumpkin. If
right.
it is 10 o'clock,
weird.
It is bad. Yeah. I'm a pumpkin at 10 o'clock.
Well, I feel like I do it, if I get out of my routine like I had lately, I punish myself by waking up at 4 until I don't have to anymore. Only because I can't sustain that early because I'll do stand-up shows. But at the same time, I use it as a punishment to get my S together.
Just to get it together. And so I have Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I have those block days that I do it. I actually even have volunteer time that I schedule in there that I'm going to be helping in the community or whatever it is. It's always in the afternoon. And Wednesdays, that is I call it GSD, get my stuff done day. And that's my day that I'm being the CEO of our company, making sure that certain things are happening and making sure that I'm looking at all the financials, making sure everything's, what are we doing for business development? How are sales? How are things going? How are, things moving? Make sure I meet with the trainer twice a week. I have those every Tuesday, Thursday at the same exact time. So if you build a routine as an entrepreneur, you will be more successful. A routine is something that actually, it helps you so much more in staying on track and being intentional with every minute that you have, because you have to be intentional with every minute you have.
And people listening to that, they feel that would restrict them. And I'll tell you, I was the same way. I was like, I'm a creative guy. I'm a vision guy. I hustle pretty hard, but at the same time, that feels constraint. That feels like handcuffed.
It gives you direction.
But what it does is it's that discipline's ultimate freedom kind of thing. What it does is it frees you up to you become efficient with your time. You value time a lot more too, because it is a commodity when you're an agency owner, for sure. And it's that thing of it will allow your brain to breathe, to be more creative. So anybody listening that's going, fuck that, I don't want to do that, I don't want to be in a military kind of thing. And it's no. By being disciplined with those habits, you'll actually be better at
it. Frees your brain up for other stuff.
Right, creative endeavor.
It really does, because you don't have to think about it. My routine is routine and habit now. I don't have to think about it. I know what my day looks like always, and there's no question about what time I wake up and productive. Yeah, there's no question. I know every day starts at 4 a.m. Well, it does. You're
one of the best guests we've had on the show, and we'll end it by our producer is holding up a picture of Sarah Palin. How many times do you get that with the Alaska brown hair and glasses?
Brown hair and glasses, that's everything you need.
I've never never been compared to Sarah Palin, but
we disagree.
I get asked all the time about her or whatever. A lot of people think about Sarah Palin,
and I didn't know
she just ran for Congress, so we'll see. We'll see. We're not sure what's going to happen. The election results have not officially come in, and they won't before Thanksgiving. So we'll find out.
And I didn't know I can see Russia from here was a Mandela effect. It was Tina Fey saying it on SNL.
It was Tina Fey, and you cannot 100%. It was not Sarah Palin that said it. It was 100% Tina Fey. Yep.
Berenstain Bears.
Berenstain Bears.
No, don't.
Mandela effect. It's weird. It's just weird how we all kind of get the bias. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. And we'll have to have you back on at some point.
Oh, I'd love it. I had a fun time. It was good.
All right. See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.